Hi, so welcome back to a new one, guys. Today, a bit earlier today you can see, but yeah, in this one we're going to be looking at Naked Brands. Now, Naked Brands is a company which we've spoken about a lot in the channel in the past few weeks. It's a company which I do see as it's interesting. It's not necessarily a play, not necessarily something that you should avoid. I think Naked Brands is something which, people are kind of 50-50 on it, in the sense that we have a lot of people who think Naked is a brand that, yes, whilst it has been struggling, they now have potential to come back, do a bit of a flip, and do extraordinarily well. We have other people, on the other hand, who think Naked Brands is a failing company and it is not going to do well. Again, I'm going to try and make this video quite impartial, but we're going to be looking at some of the good and some of the bad, and a little bit of the arguments which people do make. And we've done fundamental analysis on this company before, again, probably in a bit more detail, because this one's going to be hopefully quite quick. Again, if you do want to see fundamental analysis on Naked Brands from me, make sure to type in N2S Finance fundamental analysis for Naked Brands and you will find it. But again, we're going over a few pieces of information about the company. We're looking at what they do, how their figures are going into the future, and what we can see happening for the business going forwards. So if that sounds good, guys, make sure to subscribe. It is going to be quite a long one today, hopefully maybe around 20 minutes, but we'll just have to see how we do go on. So do subscribe. Obviously, I am not a financial advisor and this is not financial advice. It is nothing but my opinion, but if you do want to hear it, again, this is a place for it, so make sure to press that subscription button. We also have a Twitter. Follow us on Twitter at N2S Finance. You'll see it down here. We have a Patreon. Join us on Patreon at N2S Finance. The link to that is in the description. And also, now you can come and listen to some latest news stories on our website called markets-daily.com. Google it, markets-daily.com. But yes, now we're going to jump in and look at Naked Brands. We're going to start off here on a fundamental level, looking at how the business has been going, and then we're going to get into some of the more boring technicals. So we're going to start off with Naked Brands, looking on their website at what they do. So when we go over to nakedbrands.com, we can clearly see this woman laying here, and that basically does give us a bit of an image of what they do. Naked Brands Group is a specialist intimate apparel and swimwear e-commerce group. Now this is good because if we do remember a while ago, they weren't so much focused upon the e-commerce area. So the fact that they have actually had that little bit of a shift around, or they are going through that shift around, I think it is good. I spoke about that in our last fundamental video, because that is an area where Naked Brands, I believe, does and absolutely did back then need a bit of work, because it's not a bad company necessarily, and again, if they can utilize the internet to get more sales through e-commerce, it could be a really smart way to expand the business. So again, I think that is good when looking at this business right now, and I'm happy to see that. But that is basically what they do. Reading a bit further, we can see Naked Brands Group is a specialist in digital intimate apparel and swimwear business focused exclusively online. We design, manufacture and market the 74-year-old Frederick of Hollywood's brand under a license agreement with Authentic Brands Group. Naked Brands was created on the 20th of June in 2018 via a merger of the Nasdaq-listed Naked Brands Group Inc., Nasdaq NAKD, and the New Zealand company Beedon Limited, which was established back in 1948. In January of 2021, NBG announced its strategy to exit the Bendon business, which was officially divested in 2021. That was April, paving the way for NBG exclusively focus on the e-commerce marketplace. And again, that is what I was saying just a few moments ago. Now they are definitely focusing more on the e-commerce area, and I think that is a smart move for reasons which I will get into in the video. Some obvious and some I believe are not so obvious, but I think it is pretty good overall, and I think it could benefit Naked massively. Anyway, today the company has an iconic brand and a strong balance sheet, ideally positioning it to be at the forefront of consolidation within the industry. Naked Brands Group is committed to integrity and ethics in the conduct of its business operations, including relations with stakeholders. So basically what that is saying, from my understanding, is that the business does want to be transparent. Again, whether they are or are not is something which you can decide on. We're going to be looking at how transparent they are in just a moment as well. So all of that is coming up. The company is focused on seeking opportunities to acquire e-commerce based operating businesses in intimates and swimwear that can leverage operating and revenue synergies through a larger consolidated group. So we can see where the business is going and what they want to do. We have a bit of a quotation here which says that the company is excited to set the standard for innovative apparel. So whether they are doing that or not is also quite opinion related, but we can see what the company does do, right? Obviously, we have this woman here. They focus in either swimwear or more intimate apparel, if you will. So that tells us a little bit about what the business does. And again, now we're having that switch to more e-commerce based, work, and I think that is slightly better than perhaps having items being sold in a shop, especially for this industry. Now, I think this is good on two levels. The first is obvious, people don't necessarily go to the shops as much as they used to. People don't, buy stuff in the shops as much as they buy stuff online. We've seen that with the rise of companies like Amazon and many more who have definitely capitalized off the e-commerce sector, and people do utilize e-commerce more than shopping in real life because it's just so much easier. You can go on your phone, search up for something and it is at your door, perhaps within the next 24 hours. And again, it just makes more sense for many people. Yes, it is fun to shop in person, but I can personally see the advantage of shopping online as well. I think so can Naked Brands. The second reason is clearly about the pandemic, guys. Things are looking good, people are getting vaccinated, but ultimately the pandemic hasn't gone away, and there are still those people who are kind of skeptical, kind of apprehensive to go into the stores, to go shopping for non-essential items. So again, at the moment, with the situation that we are in, winter coming up soon, I hate to say it, but it is true. Who knows what we're going to see? And again, we could have a situation where countries have to lock down again, and if they are online, people can easily access their products through there, so it wouldn't really affect their business in that way. A third way which is beneficial is clearly shopping online for companies is cheaper because you don't necessarily need to have physical stores. If you shop online, the company could store these items in a warehouse, which is necessarily cheaper per foot, if you will, to rent out that space. So again, it could be another smart decision for Naked overall from a business stance. And the third or fourth reason now, I should say, when looking at this, I think it is a bit more hidden, and it's just my personal opinion. We need to look at what Naked Brands actually does to get an understanding of why this could be beneficial. So Naked Brands obviously specializes in swimwear and, intimate apparel, if you will. So things like underwear, from what I can tell. And yes, most people probably aren't too fussy about shopping for these things in real life, but you do have to admit, it could definitely add a level of privacy for their area of expertise. So people could be a bit more confident to buy from Naked Brands if it is online, rather than being a bit more apprehensive and nervous to shop for their swimwear or underwear in a physical shop where you may have to get it scanned by somebody. It's just a theory, but it definitely could be the case. Let's have a look now at who is running this company. So Justin Davis Rice, he is the chairman and CEO. Mr. Davis Rice is currently a chairman and chief executive officer at Naked Brands Group. Prior to becoming the executive chairman, Mr. Davis Rice served as a CEO for Bendon Limited from 2010 to 2017. As a CEO, he transformed the company through operational restructuring and re-engineering of the key functional operational aspects of the business, including supply chain, human resources, design and development, sourcing, wholesale and retail sales, bringing up the group's profits to operating profits from being a loss-making company. So we can see that is kind of saying a few things which I mentioned earlier. Mr. Davis Rice has, done this before in his former job, and he definitely did help to turn that company around, from what I can tell. So clearly he does know what he is doing, going off what this website does say, from his prior experience at his former business. And if we go a bit further down, we can see prior to joining this Bendon Group Limited, in 2004, Mr. Davis Rice co-founded Pleasure State, an intimate apparel company which he merged with Bendon Limited in May of 2010. And in 2007, Mr. Davis Rice licensed Pleasure State's BioFit technology and trademark for what has become a $25 million unit royalty agreement, generating in excess of $45 million worth of free cash flow over 3 years, and Victoria's Secret's biggest bra launch in its history. So there we go. We do appear to have a really experienced and intelligent guy at the top of the company, and he definitely has restructured a business before. I think that is good with what Naked is kind of going through. It definitely could help them to have somebody who knows what they are doing at the top of this industry. Going a bit further down, we can see in April, Mr. Davis Rye completed an MBO from Naked of the Benden business, decoupling the Australia and New Zealand company from the public company. Mr. Davis Wright has wide knowledge and experience of all facets of business operations within the apparel sector and as a extensive legal, financial, and US capital markets expertise. So he knows what he is doing from what they say down here. We have the CFO down here. He is Mr. Mark Ziersen, I believe that is. He is the CFO. I'm not going to bore you with what he does and all that, but if we do have a little look, we can see that his executive career spans a senior finance leadership roles within major ASX limited companies such as Cholia, I believe that is, Aristocrat, yes, Coca-Cola, Alamani. Honestly, I've never heard of these companies, but there we go. These are the companies that he has worked in the past, so I think it is good that he does also have experience in senior roles down here, and I think that definitely could benefit him for the team at Naked. And again, make sure to go and have a little look on this website for yourself, do your own DD, your own research. You will want to see a lot of this in a bit more detail. Hopefully I'll update it in a bit more detail on our website, Marcus-Daily, very soon, but we're just doing quite a quick yet detailed video right now. The director of the company is Simon Tripp. Simon Tripp has an honours degree in chemical engineering from Cape Town University and an MBA from Massey University in New Zealand. Mr. Tripp has an extensive background in investment banking and capital markets. He was previously a director of Ord Minnett, I believe it is, subsequently acquired by JP Morgan in Sydney, where he was involved in many significant transactions involving IPOs, capital raisings, M&A, and divestments across many sectors, including aviation, media, tourism, property, and financial services. He has established a fund with two other partners and raised funding and development for the Citibank Centre. So yeah, for the Citibank Centre, a major commercial and retail centre in Sydney, CBD. Their development was listed on the Australian ASX during this time. The fund also managed the Sydney Olympics stadium. Mr. Tripp was a board of the stadium during the Sydney 2000 Olympics. Since divesting his interest into the fund, Simon has been involved in a number of venture capital deals across many sectors, including financial services, mining, retail, and property. That's Mr. Simon Tripp, who is the director. We have another director down here. His name is Andrew Shape. Andrew Shape has over 25 years in experience of merchandising, marketing, branding, licensing, and management as well. So he is a co-founder and the current president of Strand & Company, Inc., a top 50 promotional merchandise and marketing agency that allows leading customer brands with promotional merchandise and marketing support. So that tells us a little bit about what he does down there. We have Mr. Kel Fitzallen. Kel Fitzallen is a tax professional with approximately 30 years of experience working with and closely held active business. Again, you can check this out in a bit more detail. That is just a quick rundown of the top people within the company, if you were wondering. So it does appear to be the case that we do have a relatively skilled team of people down there. Let's get off cryptocurrency and have a look at some news from Naked Brands. So Naked Brands, here we are again. This is ir.nakedbrands talking about the investor relations. And again, this is your news. You can see all news down here. You can go specifically to 2021 and have a look at the most recent news. So we've done this in the past as well. We have April the 30th. We have Naked Brands Group announces final results of extraordinary general meeting and closing of the Benden divestiture, I believe that is. Anyway, going into that, we can see that we can have a little bit of information which basically states down here that Naked Brands divestiture transforms Naked into an asset-light business positioned to grow in an e-commerce leader in intimate apparel. And this is something which I was saying earlier. The company is definitely trying to turn itself around, and I think that is potentially going to be something good. I think that puts Naked in a really interesting place. Let's just have a think about what this does mean for Naked, the positioning that they are in the market right now. So clearly at the moment, they are a company which is not necessarily doing awfully, don't get me wrong. They are definitely strengthening, in my opinion, but is not necessarily a market leader at the moment. I think that's not always a bad thing, but I think it does present an interesting opportunity. I think it presents an opportunity for high risk yet high reward potential investing, in the sense that this is a company where they wish to turn themselves around. Are they going to turn themselves around? Who knows? It is very hard to say. But obviously, being a gamble, if they do turn themselves around, we could see an increase in share price by a decent amount, and that could be really good for us, obviously, in the long term. But obviously, if they do not turn themselves around, we could definitely see a bit of a decrease in share price. We have other factors. People do want to see this one as not necessarily a fundamental play, as more of a gamble play. I've heard some people talk about a short squeeze for Naked, and it's not impossible in my opinion, but I don't think that every single stock is a short squeeze. We have this mentality now. First, early in the year, in like February, it was like SPAC stocks. Everybody was buying these SPACs. Then it went on to penny stocks. Everybody was buying penny stocks. Then it kind of went into crypto for a bit with Dogecoin and all of that sort of stuff. Everybody was buying cryptos. Now we're in a stage where it does appear to be the case that many people are trying to buy into these short squeeze stocks. I think that is not always a good thing, because not every single stock is due a short squeeze. I think that is what we should remember. So when people say Naked is more of a short squeeze play, if you believe that, that's completely fine. I'm not saying it isn't, but for me it is more of a fundamental play, and that is just where I see Naked at the moment. So again, we have a lot more news down here from Naked. We can see that they clearly update their website quite regularly. Again, the last update was in late April, so it has been a while. But from there and past before then, we did have constant updates from the company. So hopefully they will get writing that news again if there is anything to update us on. So again, now we have had a look at the basic fundamentals of the company. Again, we have looked at them in a bit more detail recently, and it is coming in to quarter 3 now, so you will be expecting some revenue figures for Naked from the second quarter happening very, very soon. So now let's have a look at the technicals of the company and how the company's stock price has been moving most recently. As always, we're going to start off on the more simple charts to make it very easy for everybody to understand, then have a look in a bit more detail. Naked on the 1 day, this was Friday, June the 30th, was in the red apparently. So yeah, we did have a big open. It took us up at 65. So from 65, we saw a dip down to about 936, an initial sell-off which took us down to a price point of about, if we can get a number on it, we went down to about 63.7. From 63.7, bit of strength bringing us up to the $64 range. From there, bit of a further dip taking us all the way down to 64 exactly, and then we saw some strength ever since. So this took us to highs of 65.8, almost 66. That wasn't to last, and we saw a dip throughout the rest of the day, and again we ended quite neutral in a period on a price of about 64.4. So it wasn't really too bad of a dip for Naked, but that is the prices that we are seeing. Past 5 days is not looking good at all for Naked. Started off the week Monday on a price of about 70 cents. Again, towards the end of the week, we were sat on about 65. So not too bad, about 64 down here apparently, but these numbers are saying 62. So I don't know what Yahoo Finance is doing there, but that is what we are seeing. We've seen a clear decrease in price for the stock over the past 5 days, and also now over the past month. So past month, we saw highs of 88, and we've been dipping ever since, and that is unfortunate. But you can see late Friday we saw a bit of a stable section. We saw a bit of consolidation. Hopefully we could be seeing some upwards movement into the next week. And another thing to look at with Naked is the pattern that we have been seeing over the past 6 months. And this is really where we saw that hype for Naked, as I spoke about earlier. So we had Naked in January quite flat. It was at about 30 cents, and we were talking about this stock back then. So back then it was valued about 30. Then we had this massive spike up, took us to about 165. So you can see it's like $1 over where we are right now. But you know what? It wasn't to last, and Naked has been bleeding out slowly ever since. Now it is important to state definitely that the stock has been quite stable ever since mid-April. Yes, we were sat at 55 up here, so we have made a bit of an increase. But we've seen fluctuations between about 55 all the way up to the 70s, so it has been relatively stable in that time period. So it does appear to be the case that a lot of that hype which pushed us up to the 150, 60, 70 range is now gone. I do think that is quite a good thing in my opinion, because personally a lot of people do like to see these stocks get pushed up. I do not. I like to see these stocks do well on their fundamental merit, in spite of some other factors which people do want to see do well. I like to see these ones excel on a fundamental level. I think if the company is quite flawed on a fundamental level, fair enough, it's going to take a dip. But obviously, now the company is trying to turn itself back around, and we do have some more stable action with the price of Naked, we could definitely be on to some growth going forwards. So let's have a look now on the more technical charts. We're going to start off on the 1 day. Again, this is Friday, so let's have a look at what we are seeing for the Naked Brands stock in the past week or so. So on Friday, we saw a pretty decent day for Naked, as I mentioned. Yes, it did go down for the majority of the day by about 1.14% according to Yahoo Finance, but obviously things weren't too bad overall. It's not too big of a decrease for this stock. Overall, what we are seeing is a moving average figure which is sat at 62.34, and the stock itself is sat at 62. It's exactly according to this chart. So what? Things are not too bad. Clearly the stock was making some strength towards the end of the day, and again that is coming closer to that moving average figure, but we still are not there. So the RSI that we were seeing for Friday is at 46, so very neutral, ever so slightly towards the oversold side. You guys will know by now that about 50 is neutral, so 50 is neutral, 46 is pretty neutral when we consider that 20 is oversold. So yes, we are not oversold yet, but we are dipping ever so slightly to that side. The MACD down here, you can see how that one is trading on the 1 day. Past 5 days for Naked, we are seeing figures which are a little bit, better. We've seen an RSI figure of 41, so ever so slightly more to the oversold. We're seeing a MACD figure which is pretty neutral as well down here, perhaps coming ever so slightly upwards after that big uptick that we saw at the end of the day. And again, we are seeing pretty neutral things down here as well. Past month, we are seeing the RSI for the stock sat at 43, so again that's been a common theme. It's in the 40s. It's definitely not oversold and it is not overbought. If anything, it is pretty neutral, and again that's because we are not seeing too much action with Naked in the past 5 days, in the past month even really, and again volume on the stock is pretty low as well. And the MACD figure is pretty neutral. Again, it is coming ever so slightly towards the oversold side. Who knows what the MACD figure is going to do next? Hopefully it can see a little bit of a reversal, but again, so far into the last week, after that dip that we sustained in the past 5 days, that is still bearish on the MACD down there on the past 5 days as well, on the past 1 month chart as well. And the moving average figure down here is sat at 63.9, so not too bad either. Again, we are slightly below that right now, but not really too far off in general, and it has been going up most recently, and that is quite good in my opinion. Moving out to 3 month, we are almost exactly sat on this moving average chart, which isn't bad again. The RSI quite neutral, and the same can be said for the MACD. And if you were wondering about the 6 months to date where we saw this big push up for Naked, we are definitely sat almost exactly on that moving average. The RSI still sat at 43, and the same for the MACD. It is pretty neutral. So overall, share price wise, we are not seeing too much movement in Naked stock. I think right now Naked Brands is clearly a bit more of a gamble, not necessarily a bad thing, not necessarily a stock that you should buy, not necessarily a stock that you should avoid. Obviously it does depend on how the company does do, and if they do manage to actually turn themselves around as they do wish to do. Like I said, it is more of a gamble in my opinion. I think it's more one of those high risk, high reward opportunities. If the company does do well, you could definitely reap some benefits from that. But then the flip side to that is if they don't do well, who knows what is going to happen to the share price. So overall, Naked Brands, I think it is more of a risky play, but if that is how you like to play, perhaps it could be worth it. Make sure to do your own research, as I am not a financial advisor and this is nothing but my opinion, but I will see you all again soon, so goodbye, see you then. So thank you for watching through till the end, but let me tell you about our Discord. So on your screen, you'll be seeing the N2S Finance Discord. Obviously, it is split into multiple sections. Basically, at the top, we have updates from me and all that kind of good stuff. If you scroll down a bit further, we have the main sections where we focus on cryptos, SPACs, and other hot stocks, including penny stocks, even stable growth stocks as well. And we even have a special AMC GME chat. If you scroll down, you can see some research and DD from the community. We also have funny memes, and you can see actual contributions from members down here. And again, if you do join us, it is completely free, link is down below. But if you do want to become a Patreon, you will actually get a pink sticker which will be displayed on your name. So your name will come up in pink as mine comes up in red down here, and that will show that you are a Patreon. But other than that, guys, you can join completely for free down below. You do not have to pay anything if you do not want to. Thank you for watching, see you soon.